Carson, I want to start with this latest Bloomberg News reporting. You say this alleged customer doesn't really exist, that the location it lists aren't even real. Now, our reporter interviewed the CEO of this company at an office building outside Beijing, and this CEO says the company does share a space with another company she owns, and that's why you couldn't find it. Does that change anything for you, or it's just a lot of hocus pocus?
This is just them playing the shell game and actually very poorly trying to recover, from the lies that they had previously told. That CEO, her name is Miss Rong Xu. The company, we caught the company just last week in some massive lies about her involvement with NQ. She has been far more involved with NQ than the company had ever been willing to admit. In short, Tong, that largest customer, it is a shell. It is controlled by NQ. It's an undisclosed related party, and it doesn't exist.
How come the market seems to be rebounding? You know, the day you came out with this, it clearly took a dive, but it's made quite a comeback. Why do you think that is?
Look, we've seen this every time. So we go out, we call, CCME a massive fraud. This is really a redux of CCME, Sinoforest. They took sharp dives. Then the companies in its proxies are able to pump them back up, and then they're gone. And from everything we can, this is so familiar to us. We really have seen this movie before. We have no doubt that in a year from now, this company will have been delisted, and the people on the U.S. side who are, right now standing up and saying that, well, I'm talking about the U.S. management. We think a year from now they'll have lawyers and they'll be saying, oh, how could we have known? We really weren't involved. So this process takes a little while, but we're very happy with the progress so far.
Can you get specific about accounting deceptiveness? Since you came out with your report, Bloomberg News contacted an accountant outside Beijing as well, who said it seems their numbers are kosher.
Sorry?
When you said they had some accounting deceptiveness, where exactly?
Well, over 90% of the revenue doesn't exist. So I guess we would start with the revenue line being massively inflated, as is profit. The company has made a number of acquisitions, usually pays for them in stock. But from what we can tell, some of these companies are empty boxes, but they're paying tens of millions of dollars in shares for them, which we believe is basically a way of putting more money into the fraudsters' pockets. So, I think sometimes there's confusion between when we're saying something is a business fraud and when we're saying something is an accounting fraud. An accounting fraud, you're gilding the lily, you're boosting profits, maybe you're inflating revenues some. When you're a business fraud like this one, or like CCME, or like Rhino, et cetera, the vast majority of what you claim exists, in fact, does not exist.
But you're saying 90% is fake?
Yeah, our estimate is that over 90% of their revenue is fake. It's hard to tell with precision, but we know that the number one purported source of revenue doesn't exist. We caught the company this past week, and we published a piece on this Tuesday called NQ's Top 10 Lies Since Friday, which would have been only 4 days earlier.
Perfect. So of that top 10 list, just break that down for me. We saw your report at the end of last week. Tuesday, you published top 10 lies from NQ. What sticks out the most? What is the most damning to NQ?
I'd like to highlight two lies. Number one, the lies about Rong Xu's involvement with NQ and the timing of when she left. Caught them red-handed, and they had to fess up on their call, but they didn't explain why they had lied. And number two, they finally revealed the identities of their second and third largest purported customers. However, as we show, that was just a poorly conceived lie, because based on NQ's disclosures in its 20F, the names that it gave as numbers 2 and number 3 could not actually be those customers. So it was just yet another lie about the revenue. So number 1 doesn't exist. Numbers 2 and 3 do not exist in anywhere near the quantity that NQ claims they do.
Now, the shell company says you've never been to their offices, and no one from Muddy Waters has been. I know you're a man who's not welcome in China, but do you think you should really understand what's going on the ground there?
Well, it's a strange claim that We haven't been there. I mean, I have a team, and our team has visited as we wrote in the report, we went to 10 possible addresses for Tong. Half of them did not even exist. So, the company says, well, we use service offices. Let me emphasize that half of the addresses do not physically exist. There is no office building at the address that they gave. That is not normal behavior in China. So we went to 10 addresses, and then we've also been to their purported address that they disclosed to investors on the conference call. And the truth is, there's not even one Tong sign in the lobby or on the marquee for that company. The sign that exists is for a company called 9H, which is a company that one of the NQ directors co-owns and is a director of, along with Rong Shu. That is the business that operates there. Tong is a figment of imagination. It's not on the marquee. Nobody at the management company had ever heard of this company, and it's not on the door.
During your research over the last 2 months, did you or anyone from your team attempt to speak to executives at NQ?
Yes.
And what happened?
We did. No, we got answers to some questions. I mean, some answers don't make sense. For example, we asked repeatedly for a breakdown of, where they sell internationally. They were always cagey about that. We asked for a list of the sellers of their prepaid cards. They now come out and claim, well, we've got 5,000 sellers of these prepaid cards. And they released a list of a handful. All of the Beijing sellers, by the way, are in the exact same shopping mall. But we've asked for these items before, and they refused to give them. That's because these
when they refused to give them,
exist.
may I ask, when they refused to give them, what was their reason?
We don't disclose that. That's what they say.
Carson,
I mean, they don't.
If all of your work is true here, should someone be going to jail over this?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, with all of these China frauds that we've seen, the fraudsters don't get punished. The Chinese don't punish them. And that's something that I think investors have to understand, because you obviously, to pull this off, you need collusion from people such as Rong Shu. You sometimes need help from somebody at a bank that gets bribed, and we've seen that with Long Top Financial, CCME, and a number of other frauds.
Do you think there's some crooked bankers involved with this?
I mean, they usually are able to co-opt people at the bank, because people at the bank are making, if they're really good, maybe $1,000, $1,500 a month. You're running a fraud where you can make 9 figures to peel off some money in a consequence-free environment. And that's the key. Again, nobody in China ever gets in trouble for defrauding U.S. investors. In fact, the chairman of Puda Coal, which was a massive fraud, I mean, he literally stole the mining assets from the shareholders. He was elevated to he was invited to join the CPPCC, which is the Communist Party's highest citizen committee. So they actually, in some cases, get rewarded for defrauding U.S. investors.
Wow.
And that's something people have to keep in mind.